Everything Wellness. My name is Mark Dinicio, and I am the Health and Wellness Manager here for St. Lucie County Public Schools. And my goal is, like I said before in some of my other episodes, is every month to talk about and discuss a wellness or health and wellness topic. And of course, we're getting into April, and April is Stress Awareness and Management Month. So I always try to bring out a fantastic guest with me, an expert in the field, and I have a very special guest with me here today, and my special guest is Dr. Cynthiaann Hayes, and she has such a profound background. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, let everybody know your background, what you do, and go for it.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
I'm Dr. Cynthiaann Hayes-Hurst. I am a nationally certified, board certified acupuncturist, and I have an office in Fort Pierce, Serendipity Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork. I just returned from speaking at an international conference on Western and in traditional medicine in London in March. And next month I'm going to be at the ASA conference in Washington, D.C. and representing acupuncture and legislation. We have a bill in Congress to be added as physicians to the Medicare plan. So that has to be an act of Congress.
Great.
So, and I'm also the advocacy chair for the State of Florida's Oriental Medicine Association.
Okay, anything else?
Though there's probably a bunch of other things, but.
So as you can see, she's very well versed in this. She has a fantastic background, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank
I appreciate it. You know, when it comes to stress and stress awareness, especially for employees, educators, the atmosphere can be all over the place. So, you know, we want to look into ways to help people, our listeners, our staff, anybody, just to help manage stress best. So what are some of the most effective daily stress management tools that, you know, somebody can basically use to manage their stress?
The most effective things are the habits that we develop every day. They're going to protect us and keep us healthy and have a nice long quality life. So eating well, sleeping well, exercising regularly, all of those things are going to help balance your hormones, keep your happy little endorphins running through your system so that you're not going to have a lot of mishaps along the way. More people will say, I'm too busy. I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't sleep well because I'm stressing about work, school, whatever other things I have going on, so I can't rest. If you were to eat foods that were actual real foods, rather things boxed, bagged, and engineered,
yes.
You would be happier and healthier. Now, there's a problem with having natural real foods too, because the soil's not as good as it used to be. So a lot of the nutrients are missing. So there are some kind of pharmaceutically enhanced supplements that a lot of times now also include herbs that people will use. But unfortunately, they're using them blindly, not knowing what's good or not good for them as an individual. It's just generally good for this purpose. Right. So they'll take it, and it may not be the right thing for them. Right. The other thing is we tend to eat the same kinds of foods over and over and over. Unfortunately, this creates an opportunity for our bodies to have reactions to it. But it's not a reaction like your throat swells up and you suddenly realize that you have a reaction, right? It's more of a delayed, sustained unhappiness and inflammation in your body.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times we don't realize that's what's going on. So yesterday my son was watching this thing called Freaky Eaters, and they were talking about these delayed, sustained inflammatory responses based on eating the same kinds of foods over and over. So a lot of times our kids will say, well, I don't eat this, I don't eat that, I don't eat the other thing, I won't eat it. You need to give them diversity.
Absolutely.
And you need to make sure that you don't become lazy and just do the easiest possible thing that doesn't. An easy thing could be making a salad, right? Right. Going to the local fruit stand, the organic market, whatever, getting a head of lettuce for $2 and some different fruits, vegetables, whatever's natural, an actual real food. Yes. And eating that. Try it for a week. Absolutely. You will feel fabulously different. You will be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was reacting to the things I'm eating.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it makes total sense, because if you have all those things in the food, things that our body's not used to processing or, you know, really digesting or really able to use, over a short period of time,
you start to feel it dragging down.
That's right. That's like somebody, I mean, to bring it back to somebody who even smokes. You know, over a long period of time, it's going to cause some damage, and you know, there's obviously been a lot of studies to show that. But, you know, stress is everywhere, and stress is normal. I mean, we all have stress. We even have good
And it's
stress.
good for you, right?
And it is good for you.
It helps your body learn its limits and be able to recover from things.
Yes.
But chronic, long-lasting, ongoing stress that you can't get away from, that's the kind that actually starts to cause you heart problems.
Yes.
It starts having liver problems. It has stomach problems. And in Chinese medicine, we say one of the very first things you would notice with stress a lot of times is what they call liver overacting on spleen. So your liver's not circulating the blood flow and the energy in your body well. It is making your stomach not be able to function because now you're in fight or flight. You're afraid something's going to happen and you have to be able to get out of there as soon as possible.
Yes.
If you cannot change the conditions that you're in, this will cause you to have long-term, very serious damages to your system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, my specialty, one of my specialties, I would say, is definitely physical activity. I love going to the gym. I love exercising. And I always recommend that to anybody, especially when it comes to stress, because it is a great form of stress relief. So in your opinion, I mean, I know for me and for many that it definitely helps with relieving stress, producing endorphins within the body. What would you say for physical activity would be, you know, your recommendations or even your knowledge base on how physical activity can impact stress?
Physical activity can impact stress in many ways because it's going to create positive endorphins. It's going to help you organize your brain. Moving actually helps your brain's organization. It also will uplift your mood. So people that are depressed, going for a walk in nature is a fabulous thing for pretty much anybody. The color green activates your body's liver, clears your liver system. There's a million reasons why, like, a walk in nature is super beneficial.
I agree.
If you don't have a chance to walk in nature, if you have an office window, or if you have the opportunity to have a plant on your desk, resetting your eyes from, like, computer work, constantly using a computer actually wears down the blood in your system.
Yes.
And so having a reset, looking at something green will actually help reset things.
I love that because I actually do the same thing. I make sure I have some type of plant either in my office. I have a plant in most of my rooms in my house. Because you're right, it does. You're looking around or you're stressed about something, you take a look at something that's more natural, the green color as well. It definitely does have a calming effect to it. I'm a fisherman as well, so I like to just be out in nature fishing at a lake, quiet, you know, it's just very peaceful and relaxing. So that's fake. That's fake. That's fantastic. I don't know what I'm saying. So now when it comes to certain techniques, I'm sure I know there's a plethora of them, but one of the ones that I know for sure is definitely some good simple breathing techniques. Do you have any techniques that you could share with the audience to basically help them alleviate some stress? Something that you could do anywhere.
Okay, so there's a really simple way that you can reset, and anybody can do it. It's a very simple way of doing it. I'll show you now. So you can just look over your shoulder as far as you can, and just notice what you see behind you. And then you're going to look on the other side all the way back as far as you can again, and notice how far your head turns. Now you're going to do it a second time, but when you do it the second time, you're going to wait for your body to have a response. So swallow, a deep breath, some kind of response. That shows that the vagal nerve has reset.
Interesting.
And then you'll do the other side. So we'll do the second time. So I swallowed, so I'm reset.
Yep, I saw that, yep. And did it again.
So now this other side's reset. So anybody can do that. I've had patients come into the office and they're so, like, revved up they can't calm down.
Yeah.
And I will have them do that, and they immediately start to calm themselves down. And I didn't have to do anything to them.
That's great.
I just had to show them something very simple that they can do to help themselves. And anybody can do it. A little kid can do it. A grown-up can do it. You can do it in the middle of a meeting if it's getting a little intense.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's really going to notice you that much unless you're the lecturer, right?
Right.
If you're the lecturer, you're probably going to, okay, everybody, we're going to do a system reset now, and we'll do it as a group, okay? I mean, you can guide it into what you're doing, but for the most part, nobody's going to pay any mind to you.
Exactly.
When you do that.
And another one I would say to do, especially in a meeting or something like that, because you don't want to draw attention to you that way. But you could do
breath work.
A simple, absolutely. And one of them is literally taking in a deep breath for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, and then releasing it for 4 seconds. that has been shown to relieve stress instantly. So I love the vagal reset. I mean, I think that that's something that I'm definitely going to incorporate. So thank you for showing me, and thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, what about mindfulness or meditation? What are your feels for that?
Mindfulness and meditation is really, really a good thing to do, but a lot of people will say, I don't sit still well, or if I try to sit still, my brain is doing what they call when I went to the Shaolin Temple, they call it monkey mind. So your brain's just popping from thought to thought to thought, and instead of just letting it flow through you, you're grabbing that thought, and now you're distracted, and you're not paying attention to nothingness, which is the idea of meditation. So I was also introduced to medical meditation. So thinking positively about situations and thinking positively about healing and guiding yourself, basically a self-guided healing journey, they used it and with great success on patients. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I believe you guys, because you guys got tons of herbs and thousands of years of stuff. Yes. I'm not so sure I believe you just did medical meditation and cured that person, fixed that person, totally redid what was going on with them so that they're no longer having a problem. Yeah. And they're like, oh no, that's what that is the way we took care of that. I'm like, okay. So they strongly believe that if you engage your mind, if your mind is optimized to think about health and healing and wellness and doing better, and if your purpose is to be doing well, serving others and being happy, then you're going to be successful in whatever it is you're doing. If it's healing your body, helping your community, whatever it is. And they are very serious about it. Yeah, they are extremely serious about it.
I definitely agree with that, for sure. Now, there's common misconceptions about stress and stress management, and, you know, how often do you encounter those, and what are some of the misconceptions that you hear when it comes to that?
Oh, biggest misconception is, well, you know, if I just got rid of this, it wouldn't be a problem. A lot of times our stress is our reaction to a situation. So by organizing your day, to making sure you have time to transition from one thing to another, you can decrease some of the stress that way. If there are particular situations that you know are difficult to deal with and you can't avoid them, limit those things. Again, maybe having a different mindset about the situation that you are having you have this task that you have to do, and changing your mind about how you're approaching it could be really, really helpful for you to do better with it. Most of the time, we do have something that we could do to make it a little bit better. It's when we are trying to figure it out and we are so stressed out we can't identify where I could change something, that we really start snowballing into this free fall.
And it happens fast.
And it can, yeah. So taking those slow, deep breaths and just pulling yourself together and giving yourself a second, and then later on reflect back. Okay, so today was a rough day. What could I have done a little bit differently so that my day would have been better? Yeah. I can't not go to work. I have to go to work. This situation it's going to occur again. It's a repetitive situation, and I know that it's not good for me long term to have this happen constantly. Right. So devising an actual plan when you're not in the moment is really, really helpful. So when doing cardiac and pulmonary rehab, I exercised patients who had poor lung function and had heart attacks. Yeah. They had stress management classes. We had nutrition classes. We made sure that they had an arsenal of things that they could use. We made sure that they exercised, so they used their physiology. So we can't necessarily change their numbers, but we can change how their body's efficiency is, how they uptake their oxygen. If you are more efficient, your body is going to do better, even with the limitations that you have. Right. So they were my inspiration. Yeah. Because they are doing this without being able to do anything, while the rest of us are like, we're too stressed out, we don't have time to take care of ourselves. And then we wait for that collapse. Yes. And our body will do it when it needs to, whether you want it or not.
That's right. and I like that approach because it's basically controlling the controllable, right? I mean, we can control, sometimes we can't control everything that's going on in our lives, but we can control how we react to it. So by having something set up like that, different strategies and plans and tools, I think is very helpful for a lot of people, and I think it sheds a different perspective on a way to, basically manage your stress. Sometimes stress affects the way we sleep.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
sleep is very important. It's probably one of the more important things that a lot of people don't realize how important it is. So what would you say are some good effective strategies to basically improve your sleep quality?
So sleep quality, there's a couple really, really good things regarding sleep quality that we could change. So we all tend to use a lot of blue light things before bedtime, right?
Yes.
So we'll watch TV, we'll watch some videos on our computer, our tablet, we'll watch our phone. Taking those things away an hour before you go to sleep, because it's signaling your brain to stay awake.
Yes.
It's also giving you this endorphin hit that's getting you all excited, right? This is not the time to be excited,
No.
okay?
And it produces serotonin, any
right?
type of light that you're taking in,
Yeah,
right?
so you need to kind of cut those back like an hour before you go to bed. Develop a ritual where it's quiet and relaxing. Take a warm shower, a warm bath. Do like a whole body tensing and relaxing exercise.
I love that strategy.
To see what tense is, and then to work your way up. Like do your feet and just your feet, then do your lower legs, just your lower legs. And by the time you get up to your head, you will feel like you actually can relax.
Yeah.
So some of those things would be really, really helpful. There's some great research on using milk with fresh nutmeg in it. It actually will help you have a better sleep.
I think I've heard of that.
Fresh nutmeg actually is a slight hallucinogenic, and it will give you a good 8 hours sleep. There's a lot of different blends. There's something called like moon milk. There's like a turmeric and like a golden milk that you can drink. There's a lot of things that cause just a natural relaxation to help ease you into sleep.
I like that. Now, does the milk, does it have to be
There's something
warmed?
to do with the something to do with the warm milk. It actually creates this calming, and the nutmeg itself has this particular. And you don't have to use milk. Some people are allergic to milk, can't tolerate milk, don't like milk, right?
The lactose, right? Yeah.
So chamomile also does that. It clears heat from your body and it calms you.
Interesting.
And I have had a few people who've done the chamomile with the nutmeg, and they said, "Oh my gosh, that was fabulous.
Really?
I slept so good. That was amazing. Thank you so much for telling me to do that."
I might try that this weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah, see how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that.
So chamomile tea and nutmeg will work too.
Yes, I really am going to try that, actually. Now, when it comes to stress, especially chronic stress, and sometimes if we're going through different strategies, it might not be helping as much as we want it to. So I always would say, and there's a bad stigma around it, unfortunately, but talk to somebody. Social support.
Social life is super important. So in all the blue zones around the world, we have discovered that social support actually adds years to your life. It improves your life, and having multi-generational support and having activities that include young people and old people and everyone in between is super helpful for everyone. It creates a sense of community, a sense of well-being, and actually seeing and being with people. Even though we're so connected by phones and conferences and all these things, they're not a hands-on, in-person connection.
Right.
You need that in-person connection. You can actually, babies will die if they aren't touched, right?
Yes.
Old people don't get touched so much anymore either.
That's true.
And in society, it's very difficult for people. They have barriers. They don't want to be around people. But if you have a group of people that you're around regularly and you feel comfortable, patting them on the shoulder or whatever.
That's right.
It's a powerful tool for helping people lead a happy and successful life, and to feel like they are actually valued and loved.
Yes, absolutely.
And being valued and loved is super important in today's society.
It really is. I mean, even simple as checking in with somebody. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah,
How's
how
your
are
family?
you?
How
And
are
not
you?
with the stupid little answer, "Oh, I'm fine."
Right.
Yeah, that's not true.
Oh, yeah, exactly, right. Kind of try to dig a little bit deeper into there. And of course,
that's not true. If the answer is "I'm fine," oh yeah, you're not.
yeah, that's never a good answer,
You're
actually.
never good if you say that.
No.
Okay. Okay, you need a friend.
Yes, definitely. Now, I know we discussed earlier chronic stress, and we want to kind of point out what is the difference. Like, how can you recognize chronic stress as opposed to just regular stress that just happens daily? Like, what would be a good, difference between the both?
I would say daily stress, where like the exciting things, you got a new job, you got a new house, those are those are like happy stresses, but still stresses. The chronic stress is where you are now having physiological changes. It's not like a temporary thing. It's an ongoing thing. And that is what leads to cardiovascular disease. That's what leads to stomach problems. That's what leads to a lot of things that are very difficult to diagnose and treat. And if you find yourself in a situation where you've identified that you're having these long-term stresses, and your strategies aren't successful, and you're taking drugs to try to fix the chronic problem, the problem may very well have to be addressed by a change of environment. So you may actually have to take a really hard look at what's causing the stress, or resign yourself to having long-term health issues from it. The better choice is to figure a way to get away from that situation, because it will cause you actual physical problems that may be irreversible if it goes on for too long.
And that's not good.
That is not good.
We don't want to get to that point.
That is not good at all. So medicines are really meant to, when you have a stress and your body's reacting, your heart rate's going high, your blood pressure's gone crazy, your stomach's overreacting, and you went to the cardiologist and you got a workup, and you went to the GI person and you got your workup, and they're like, well, we're going to give you some drugs. Well, what do you do after the drugs?
Right.
They don't give you that advice.
Right, exactly.
They don't tell you anything after that. So you need to make sure that you realize that you need to find out the root problem, like what's causing it, so that you can make a change. Now, if these are things you can change yourself, that's fabulous.
Right.
If there are things that you need guidance with, I would suggest an acupuncturist, because they look at the body from a different point of view. And they can help guide you in other ways that might be more successful.
Yeah.
And ultimately, sometimes you come to the realization that you are in the wrong place and that you need to change the situation itself, because all your strategies aren't working, and you don't want to further compromise your well-being.
Right. And you know, a conversation we had prior to sitting down here was, you mentioned that stress starts in the stomach. For the most part, right?
For the most part, most people will say, my stomach, I have this horrible stomach pain.
Yeah.
Kids are going to school and their stomach hurts, and it's, you know, they go, well, they probably ate something bad the night before.
Right.
Maybe, you know, they weren't eating the most nutritious diet. But if it goes on and it goes on and it goes on, a lot of times it's more likely related to anxiety from an environmental situation, something environmentally triggering it. And so personally, I know that my youngest daughter has complained, and now she's starting to realize what's triggering it, and unfortunately the trigger seems to be an environmental trigger. So how can we change our environment? And that's when you have to start looking at things and making hard choices as to what you can do, what you need to do, and how to balance the two. Because it's not always easy to just walk away from something.
Oh, of course.
You have to think it through and devise a strategy. And a lot of people will say, you know what, my life and my long-term well-being, or this fabulous job that I absolutely love but is causing me illness, which do I pick?
Yeah, and that's tough.
Yeah,
and
it is tough. It is a tough choice.
Well, I will say this, that, you know, having the different stress in our lives, you know, like I said, whether it's good or whether it's chronic or negative, there's so many different things that you could do. And it's okay to talk to somebody about it, because sometimes, you know, you might not be able to fully figure out what is triggering your stress, right? So it's
sometimes
okay
somebody
to sit
else's
down.
point of view might help you realize for yourself. Like, they're not going to tell you, but kind of lead you to, oh, that's where the hiccup in the road is. That's where the issue is. Aha, I never thought about that before, right?
Yes.
So it's very helpful to have another person's point of view. But the very interesting thing I learned in acupuncture school that I had not anticipated learning is that we can actually help people with emotional and trauma things without talking. I'm so used to talk therapy and play therapy, and I've had, you know, I was a foster parent and I had over 65 kids. I adopted 9 children. Wow. I have 1 born to me, so I have 10 children.
Wow.
I had 7 kids when I went to school for acupuncture. In my graduate school, I started with 4 and I finished with 7.
Wow.
So I have had a lot of experience with talk therapies, right?
Yeah,
So
I'd say.
I'm like, oh, talk therapy. That's that was so good. Play therapy. Oh, that was so good. And then I went to acupuncture school, and it was amazing how you just use a couple points in a person's body, and it shifts their energy. And they sort through old stuff that they buried in a deep dark spot that they don't even remember they buried. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Because it was buried for a reason.
Yep.
And they sort through it, they let it flow through them, and then they are done with it, and it's gone, and they feel like amazing. I had a friend in school, and she's like, you did that cupping thing on me, and I swear you just like took all the bad things out of me.
Cupping's fantastic.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
2 years later, she told me when we were in our doctorate program. I'm like, you probably should have told me that before. And she says, do you remember? And I said, I do remember, because her reaction to the cupping was really weird. So normally, I'm a body worker, so
Yeah.
I like to do, a lot of times I use moving cupping to move the fascia, to move the muscles, to move all the things that are deep down in the layers of the tissues to the surface so that it can clear out. Not expecting like an emotional clearing,
Right.
expecting a physical clearing, the musculature to get
Sure.
more malleable. But in her case, she reported a physical reaction and an emotional reaction.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, didn't think about that, but we're energetic and you're sucking up the stuff and you're moving it.
Yeah.
I guess that could be real.
Absolutely.
She said, my whole life changed.
That's amazing.
I was like,
That's amazing.
cupping? Your whole life changed with cupping?
Hey,
Really?
Whatever works. You know,
I was like, that's
whatever
amazing.
works.
For everybody, it's something different, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, I want to thank you again very much
Thank you.
for sitting down and discussing this with me today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And for anybody else out there listening, I hope you took a lot away from this conversation today, and we will see you on the next one.